NC State family, it's time for an honest look at your sports world. Let's get you hooked up for Pack Therapy, presented by First Horizon Bank. Here are your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Wolfpack legend Casey Morsell.
Welcome back into Pack Therapy, the podcast. Tim Donnelly, Casey Morsell, as always. Casey being a member of the Final Four team from a year ago with special insight into everything ACC basketball, but specifically his old squad, the NC State Wolfpack. Casey, will start with the important stuff coming out of the Duke game. Have you ever been on the court when somebody just involuntarily vomited all over the baseline?
Not to that extreme, no. Especially definitely not in college. So that was different.
It shook things up. I actually thought for a second, I was like, oh, that's going to mess with NC State's momentum, right? They're playing well. They're knocking down shots. Now you're going to take a 10-minute break to desanitize the floor. But actually, you know what? I don't even want to get too positive here. I'm gonna let you drive. The game overall, 74-64 loss.
Yeah. We
were just talking before we recorded. 5 straight losses for NC State. Lost 7 of your last 8, 8 of your last 10. Is there like a little bit of positive in that you had Duke on the ropes and they're the second team in the country? Do you take away a little, and I hate to use this term, moral victory out of it?
I'm not a big fan of the moral victories.
Neither am I. Yeah. It felt wrong saying it.
The Duke game, there were plenty of positives, and there are a lot of positives that you could take away from a lot of their losses. But at the same time, I mean, it's the ACC, and it's a league where, you have to put together, a lot of those positives for a significant amount of the game. And that's what they did, last night. But, when you're playing Duke, you need to put it together for 35 to 40 minutes at least to kind of pull it off. And they had stretches in the first half, but at the end of the day, they're not in that 35 plus minute range of playing at a high level, and that's really where they're going to struggle, especially like playing in a place like Hammer.
Now, you have obviously unique experience in that atmosphere, right? Cameron is what Cameron is. People love talking about it. Being ahead at half, how do you handle that? Because you watching the game, and I was just watching on my couch, you felt like Duke was going to make a run. It also felt like 4 wasn't enough. Yeah. Like the way that NC State dominated and beat them to the punch and came out ready to play, felt like you should have been up 12 at halftime. You're up 4. It almost felt like not enough.
And that mattered. That mattered because they didn't finish the half strong. They should have finished the half, like you said, in that double-digit range. Now you're comfortable, and now you kind of have them on the ropes. But because Duke was able to cut it to 4, now they, have a little bit of momentum that turns into a lot of momentum, especially in Cameron. And as we saw early in the first half, Duke's got hot early, and that's something that kind of, and the momentum reversed. Now NC State's on the ropes. Now they're playing fast. So, momentum is a thing that exists, and I think that's something that we need to definitely talk about a lot more.
First of all, I love that you said that, because I hate when like the people with the calculators get together and tell us, momentum, it's not real. I'm like, no, if you've never been on the opposite side of it, you don't know what it feels like.
For sure.
But like you could be sitting on the bench, not even in the game, and just like,
yeah,
you feel it change. I'm tempted to say this because, or I'm tempted to I don't even like not believe this.
Yeah.
I think that first half against Duke is some of the best basketball we've seen NC State play in a while. Is it just because somebody like Dontrez Styles or somebody like Trey Parker is knocking down shots, and it's, the most frustrating thing people say about the NBA is it's a make or miss league.
Yeah.
And I'm going, well, kind of like do you get the better shots? Do you work for Dontrez Styles 4 of 6 from 3, Trey Parker the youngster 3 of 4 from 3.
Yeah.
The team as a whole shot over 45%. Is that why they looked the best they've looked, and it's just a matter of if you knock down the shots you're going to be good, and if you don't you're not?
Yeah. I mean, not only did they make shots, but they also defended at a high level, I think, in that first half, making it tough for Cooper Flagg to get going and, just making it, all the guards kind of uncomfortable. But like we talked about last episode, like they're going to get those shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like teams, because they draw, NC State, one thing that they do really well is they drive the ball really, really well. So they're going to get shots. They just have to knock them down, and they made them because Duke was going to give it up all game. For the most part.
The reason why I'm kind of focusing in on that is,
Yeah.
right, when you see a team, the way I've been describing NC State all season is they haven't figured out the best way to play yet. I know there's more in there. I know that roster can be more. How much more? I don't know.
Yep.
But I know there's more in there. So watching them play a really good half, I'm looking for, okay, what was different? And can you replicate that next week? It would be relatively frustrating to just be like, oh, they made shots they don't normally make, because then there's no real change,
For
right?
sure.
Then Kevin Keatts isn't like, all right, we need to do more of that. If it's, okay, they've gotten open shots against Duke, they made them, you looked great, you're leading at half, you got open shots against some other team over the last 5-game losing streak, you missed them, you didn't look as good.
Exactly.
So, what can be replicated, or is it just like, hey, Dontrez, we need you to knock down shots?
Yeah, because they're getting. Last night, the biggest thing is that they had great looks. That's something that's a positive. And a lot of their previous losses, there was a lot of one-on-one play and everyone trying to be superheroes. And that last night, that wasn't necessarily the case as much. Duke just kind of got hot, and Cooper Flagg got going in the second half, and it was just tough to kind of outscore them when they got going. But for the most part, State did a solid job, kind of, getting good looks and a solid job on the defensive end. It's just those lapses and those stretches that, I think last night they gave up a 19-0 run.
Yep. And the first half into the beginning of the second half.
Yeah, but that can't happen, especially on the road.
Okay. Well, and we're obviously doing a big autopsy of this game because I think it's a missed opportunity to get a season-changing win, and at times you were set up for it.
Yep.
When you can't have a 19-0 run. Completely agree. I also think it's more difficult. We just talked about momentum.
Yep.
How do you, when it's an 8-0 run, stop it from becoming a 19-0 run? Is it a missed timeout where you needed to stop the bleeding? Is it get all the freshmen off the court and put in all the vets? How do you make sure that every 7-0, 8-0 run doesn't turn into a 19-0 run when a player let's call a spade, Cooper Flagg's pretty good when he gets going, and it kind of feels like it's snowballing against you.
Okay, with this group, in particular, you got to call timeout. In my opinion, you gotta stop the bleeding quick, because this team doesn't handle being in deficits as well as previous teams. Now, some teams you can just play it out, play it through it. The game is a game of runs, so teams are going to get hot at some point. So you just try to let them play it out, and you save your timeouts. But with this team in particular, doesn't have the best record of overcoming these deficits that they kind of give up. In my opinion, you just call a timeout and try to bring everybody in, especially at a place like Cameron.
Especially at a play, it's that different from playing as an NC State player. It's that different than playing, and no disrespect to the other ACC arenas.
Well, okay,
and don't blow smoke.
Yeah,
be
this
real.
is real. I think at a place like Cameron, you're on the road. It's not necessarily the atmosphere.
Okay,
it's just more so. They get bailed out. It's a lot of calls that go their way. It's a lot of,
fair.
there's, I remember there was a play last night. They threw it completely out of bounds. No one touched it. They called it off NC State. So I'm just saying that because I'm biased. I've just literally been in those types of situations. So I'm not going to say it's 8-on-5, but it is kind of, it could be kind of lopsided, especially with the officiating too.
So playing at a place like Cameron where that's happening.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out to me watching the game, and this is just look at an observation.
Yeah.
Trey Parker, freshman, not only had a good day scoring the ball, felt like he was making a statement of some kind. Hit a shot with Cooper Flagg contesting, and he's doing I don't even know what this is called, where you put the 3 fingers over your face, and then he's screaming, it looked like just screaming at the top of his lungs, just flexing and and part of me went be careful, right? You don't want to poke the bear, but then part of me also went, no, do you if you're a player that hits shots and talks trash, don't change because you're in somebody else's arena that you watched on TV a lot.
Yeah.
Like for Trey Parker, what does last night do for his confidence, or what does it do for his role in the team?
Yeah, I mean, his role definitely grew based off of last night. I mean, number 2 team in the country, and the fact that you step up with that kind of confidence, which is what this team needs. This team needs that kind of guy who was he was a threat on pretty much both ends of the floor last year. I mean, yes, he had a few rookie mistakes in terms of just the turnovers and decision making, but it's the aggression, it's the pressure that he puts on the defenders. I mean, he was essentially a 3-level threat in terms of his driving, his being able to find guys, and also being able to just pull up for 3 in half court and transition. So he was a guy who impressed me a lot last night. It's something that he has to build on it. I mean, it's the season's a roller coaster, and that's something I mentioned to him when he first got in. It's that it's going to be a roller coaster, but right now he's in a good headspace, and he's looking forward to the next game.
We're going to take a break here. When we come back, there was one specific comment in the post-game press conference from Kevin Keatts that I want Casey Morsell to translate for us, right? The coaches talked to the media. What did Coach Keatts really mean when he said? We'll get to that right after this right here on Pack Therapy. We're back here on Pack Therapy, and as I said before the break, there was one particular comment from the head coach, Kevin Keatts, of NC State after the Duke game that drew my attention. Now I have the note here, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I'm Kevin Keatts can deliver a line as only a few can. But basically he said the lack of having a go-to guy can make late game situations tricky because they don't have the person that you just know is going to get the ball and take over. End of paraphrasing his quote, and it was a paragraph worth of conversation from Kevin Keatts. But the reason why I bring it up is I don't know if there's a topic that we've talked about more here on Pack Therapy than late game execution for this team. Do you force someone to be a go-to scorer? Like, do you say Marcus Hill, Jaden Taylor, I don't care who it is, Dontrez Styles, when we're in those moments, expect to get the ball just so everybody knows what's up? Because I look at Duke, they knew Cooper Flagg was going to get the ball. I look at your team last year, and you've said this, DJ Burns was going to get the first touch. Now, he might pass out of it because he had vision and everything, but there was a level of when things get crazy, we know what's going on. This year's team, without a go-to scorer, do you almost pretend you do? Like fake it till you make it? You're our go-to scorer?
No.
In that final moment?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that because it's important not to change who you are. That's something that's big, but you don't necessarily – if you're Keatts, right, you have what you have. I mean, it doesn't really do much in, we're heading into February to keep on harping on that you don't have a go-to scorer. So, I mean, that's, you don't. So that's fine. So you have to play the hand you've been dealt. And, essentially it's essential for this team to use that to their advantage in a way that, okay, we don't have a go-to scorer, so now you don't know.
I like the spin zone. Turn a weakness into a strength.
Yeah, you don't know, all of us could be dangerous in our own way. That's something that could be valuable. And part of it is by, them playing together, and I'm not the coach. That's for him to figure out. Yeah. But I wouldn't say okay, you make a guy be the go-to scorer if that's not his characteristics.
So is it a hot hand? Because if you look at last night, Styles, but he was in the foul trouble, so that you can't really go to him if he's ineligible. Should Trey Parker have been the guy taking the shots down the stretch, trying to stop the bleeding because he had a bit of a hot hand? Granted, that's not, he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes. That's not a It'd be a big role change from hey, hopefully you give us 10 good minutes to, hey, take this shot to keep us in the game on the road at the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking for ways that this team can execute down the stretch better. Because even looking at last night, or looking at the Duke NC State game last night as we record it, it's a 10-point game.
Yeah.
It should not have been a 10-point game. It was closer than the final score says because down the stretch they were getting out executed again. I'm grasping at straws here because it's frustrating, but how do you get them to execute better in the last 4 minutes of a game when they played pretty well for 36 minutes.
Yeah. One of the things I saw that Duke did really, really good last night, and it could have been, just Cooper, but, they got NC State in foul trouble. And I think something that a lot of the guards and bigs can do to relax a lot of defenses is get guys in foul trouble. And part of that could come from making shots. But the way kind of Cooper, attacked Dontrez and made him pick up multiple fouls back to back to back, that's something that could be done maybe within the bigs. I think Brandon Huntley Hatfield could be a potential guy to get other bigs in foul trouble. Now you eliminate rim pressure, so that could create room for guys to drive, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of, create a scenario for a guy to get the last shot. And make it get an easier look, Because now if another team's big is in foul trouble, he's out the game. That's a driving opportunity for a guard like, Marcus Hill or Trey Parker to get a look, or Jaden Taylor to get a look at the rim. I wouldn't want to, have any of those guys shoot a step back or anything off the dribble for the game. I wouldn't want to look at that. So, that's a way that you can kind of make it all happen, but that's a way easier kind of said than done for sure. But it's possible, and I think that's something that Duke definitely took advantage of last night, was getting guys in foul trouble.
The reason why I bring it up is, and I just brought up kind of the play-by-play here. 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game. So you've played 35-plus minutes. Marcus Hill made a free throw on an and one to make it a 63-62 game. Right there, it's within grasp, right?
Yeah.
And I do think beating the number 2 team in the country, according to the AP poll, is a potential season-turning, that is a big moment. From that point on, you get Cooper Flagg 2 free throws, Tyrese Proctor free throw, Cooper Flagg layup, Huntley Hatfield gets a layup for Gumba, Tyrese Proctor free throw, Cooper Flagg free throw, Konkanippel free throw, Konkanippel free throw. So it is, there's some physicality that's happening there that's putting them on the line. But take us into that moment. How do you not, and your team might have been the best team we've seen in a long time at it for State. How do you not tighten up when it's 5 minutes left and you have a potentially season-changing win right there, right? It's right there. It did feel like State tightened up a bit, but I don't know if that's how am I to sit here and say you shouldn't when that is an unbelievably pressure-packed moment?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like I said, literally last time, they're a different team come the end of the stretch. That's something that is big for NC State, and that's something they're struggling with. Is okay at that last media timeout. So 4 minutes left in the second half. If it's a close game, they're going to do something different, and they're going to stray away from what's been working for them. So that's something that it's kind of buried them in this hole. But it's something that's completely fixable. I'm not going to say it's something that's completely fixable, and they're right there. Just a shot here and there in that last 4 minute stretch could change a lot. And
I don't want to I'm not trying to be the sky is falling, Chicken Little running around. The reason why it's so frustrating is because they are in every game with literally a couple minutes to play, and it feels like there should be a solution. There should be like an aha moment, and until we get there, I keep trying different things. Part of me, and this is the stupid things athletes do. And I've talked about this on the air on my afternoon show. In college, I was the holder for kicks. Right, I was the guy that held it so kickers can. It was early in my career the way to get on the field, and then later on it was just a goofy thing that I did because the kicker liked me. But it was. If the kicker was missing kicks in practice, I'm down there trying. I'm doing comedy routines. I'm singing songs. I'm trying to do anything possible to get him in the right mind space. So I know if I ever look at him and I don't like the look in his eye, I've got a tool bag of things I can go to, right? If I think he needs to loosen up, if I think he needs to tighten up, whatever it is. Part of me is like you were saying last podcast, play music in practice, right? And then when there's 3 minutes left and it's a one-score game, Kevin Keatts needs to bring them all in and sing the song, right? Needs to bring them in and go, hey, this is just like practice. This is just what we worked on. Stop.
For sure.
Loosen your back muscles a little bit and go out there and play. And if it needs to be him, I don't know what music the kids listen to these days. If he needs to rap some NBA YoungBoy, do what you got to do, right? Like that sounds so outlandish, but at this point in the season, losing 5 straight, 7 of your last 9, or 7 of your last 8, like, is it that crazy to start thinking about stuff like that?
That's a good question.
Like, I guarantee you as a coach, I would either be the best coach in the history of the world or I'd be laughed out of the gym by my players immediately because I literally would try anything to get this team rolling because it seems like there's more there.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, most of their mistakes are fixable. I mean, I would say something that you can't fix is that they don't have a guy. I mean, that's something that does matter in terms of like a last-second shot guaranteed guy. But, a lot of their mistakes are fixable, and who they are within the last 4 minutes, that's something that's fixable too. And that's something where a lot of their games have been determined by that last 4-minute stretch. So, they're in it for the most part. It's just, towards that end, that last media break, there should be conversations had that says, like you said, we're good. Let's not stray away from who we are, even if it's a joke, whatever. And that's something. I mean, not to harp on last year.
Yep.
But playing with guys like DJ, like Burns, for example, he was a goofball for all 40 minutes. We were up 20 or down 20. He was all vibes and all high spirits, and that served as great value come postseason. So that's what they need, because I think there's a stiffness that comes within that last 4-minute stretch.
One of my favorite sayings is when you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you need to do, people start to climb out. No, it's like stop digging, right?
Yeah.
You just need to stop the bleeding. Clemson on Saturday with some guys you're familiar with. Chase Hunter, scorer. Ian Shefflin, who is one of the more unique players in the league, kind of a big dude, great rebounder. 5-game, I've said it a bunch of times. There's a losing streak here. I think if you play as well as you did against Duke, you got a chance to beat Clemson.
You got a shot.
You do need to finish a bit better, as we've been talking about. How do you make sure that going into Clemson on Saturday, this team is ready to go out there and win? I'm not saying it's going to, put you in the NCAA tournament, but it might put you in the ACC tournament and give you that shot because you need to worry about that now.
Yeah, that's important. Clemson's a tough game. That's something, in my opinion, it's tougher to beat Clemson than it is to beat Duke.
Really?
Yeah, from playing as a player perspective. I know from numbers and everything, you might look at it and be like, okay, Duke's harder. But from a player perspective, Clemson is harder because Clemson has a very sophisticated offense, and they run their stuff sharp. They're hard. Duke is just a bunch of, they rely on their skill a lot more, right? And Clemson, they have a lot of you have to be very, very sharp, on the defensive end to slow them down.
Compliment to Brad Brownell.
Compliment to Brad Brownell. I mean, he does a great job kind of, coaching and making sure that they run their stuff sharp. So that's something, it's going to test their alertness, their attention to detail, their attention to scouting report. And honestly, that's, as a player, our teams that I played on struggle with playing.
I was just
going
to say, this sounds like what you're saying. Surprisingly, sounds like the worst team for State to get right now.
Yeah,
because they are a team that's kind of like trying to bust a streak with vibes and energy, and they are playing harder and they're more demonstrative. But that's not going to help you if the other team is just like the most sound fundamentally.
They're very fundamentally very detailed. They know, and they're an older group.
Yep.
They're a bunch of seniors that they're playing.
So I'll ask you this: are we wait after Clemson? It's the California road trip at Cal, at Stanford.
Yeah.
Could the road trip save you? Right.
Yeah,
it's us against the world on the
road trip could
Cal.
change things.
Right.
I would say the road trip could change things. But
it's 11 p.m. against Cal Eastern time. Make us stay up late.
Yeah.
So all right, there's games to come where they have a chance to turn some things around. The losing streak is tough, but there's hope. All you got to do is finish 4th to last in the ACC, and you make the tournament. Can't be one of the bottom 3.
Yeah.
Can't be one of the bottom 3. You make the tournament, and then So you're telling me there's a chance. That's all you need is a chance. That's it for the Pack Therapy this week. We'll talk to you again next week following the Clemson game as they head on that California, on the California road trip, we'll call it. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Go Pack.